So today I have a new stock pick, and the company is called Nutex Health. And I found this company just through screening for stocks and researching, and I was really this stock stood out to me as a really great potential growth story, a stock that's already grown a lot in the past 6 months, and looks like it's poised for more growth, much more growth in the future. So what they do is they basically build micro hospitals, so like very small hospitals in places where there isn't a bigger hospital around. So there will be big city hospitals that are in different states, in basically every state in the U.S. And when there isn't a big hospital nearby, they'll build these mini hospitals, and these mini hospitals basically they function as a normal hospital. It's just they're a lot smaller, and they can treat, I think the CEO said, around 95% of all patients that come in. If he can't treat them, they send them to a bigger hospital. These micro hospitals are much more profitable than the bigger hospitals because they have a lot less staff, and they are overall more focused on the patient. It's a lot more intimate, a lot more of an intimate setting. You go there, if you're a patient there, you're most likely getting better care than if you or more personalized care than if you went to a bigger hospital. So they went public in 2022. So they've kind of had their fair share of struggles as they were kind of transitioning into the market. This is the product of a bunch of stock splits as they were kind of very struggling. But as of recently, you look at the 1 year and the 6 month, they've done very well. And a big reason that is they're just kind of starting to, obviously 2022 to 2024, they were seriously ramping up building these hospitals, these micro hospitals in many states across the US. And now they're just starting to really show results for it. And you can see that in the revenue. I have the revenues pulled up here. You can see that in the revenues. Again, this is a very transition period, kind of started out maybe a little hot, but then kind of lulled down. And then you see these two big jumps, these last 2 quarters since this really the beginning of 2025, really, really improved revenues. And then you look at the net income, and you can just see we're starting to bounce back. They were very, very unprofitable here. I'm losing a ton of money. That's why the stock price was struggling. But now you're starting to see they're making a pretty good amount of money for how small of a company it is. Again, only basically 700 million market cap. So you see, again, since basically they reported that, they've been on a tear. And that's great news. And for this company, and I think they still have a ton of room to grow. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So Seeking Alpha, it's one of the websites I use to screen for stocks and see how they're doing. And in terms of Nutex, their financial health is amazing. I mean, they get basically out of their 5.0 quant rating on Seeking Alpha, they get a 4.99. So that's the best out of any stock right now. So very, very intriguing stuff. And you see something like that for a company this small, and it's really interesting stuff. You look at just some of the ratings here. Price to earnings ratio of only 10.16. That's way below their sector average of 27, which I guess is just like the small healthcare sector. You see their EV to EBITDA ratio is 4.45 versus much lower than 13.67. So again, very, very undervalued in terms of what they're bringing in sales wise and the price of their stock right now. Price to sales 1.03 versus 3.46. That's very solid. And then you look at their growth prospects, revenue growth of 141% over the last year. That's much higher than the sector median. EBITDA growth is 913%. Again, these are insane numbers. You see this 4,652%. This is just what you love to see if you're looking for a stock. Again, operating cash flow growth, more than 2,000%. That's what you like to see. Again, they don't have a ton of debt. They have more cash on hand than they do debt, which is what you love to see of a small company, just to make sure they're not going to go bankrupt. And they're also very profitable. Their gross margins are solid for a growing company. Their net income margins are very good, 10.7%. And cash per share 15.33. Again, very heavy in cash. That's what you love to see out of a company like this, and they do have a ton of momentum, and that's something that you kind of got to keep in mind too. Is you're going to also ride the momentum with this stock, because it's been basically going up for the last 6 months. Except there has been a little bit something that was, I don't think it's scary, but to keep in mind if you were to invest in this stock. And that's what they did recently see a little bit of a price dip. They were at 167 and now we're at 122 over the last 5 days. And there's reason for that happening. Basically, they have a shareholder meeting every July, and they recently released the materials for the shareholder meeting that all shareholders will have access to. And they stated what they'd be voting on, because that's what they do at shareholder meetings. And that one of the things they're going to be voting on is if the shareholders will allow for Nutex to release more shares, stock, shares of stock. And the reason they want to add more shares of stock is because they like to pay their employees in stock and cash, not just cash. And they don't have the stock to do that. So they want to add more. So they asked for the potential to add up to 1.1 million in stock, which is a big number. That would be a big majority of the shares available right now. It wouldn't be a majority, but it'd be a big chunk. And that, I guess scared investors a little bit, which is fine. I don't know if it's really scary because it's nothing wrong with the business, or there's no financial worries. It's really just something they want to do to benefit employees. And we did already see the correction for this. So this is why I'm kind of comfortable pitching it now, is because we are heavily discounted from where we were 5 days ago. And again, nothing much really changed. It's just this idea that shares may be a little diluted, but they're not. They have said they're not planning on using all 1.1 million, or even issuing all that. They said around 30 grand is what they're thinking of issuing. So that's, I think, a little overblown, the correction that we saw on that. But if you're looking to buy, this is a great time, because again, the next couple of weeks or even a couple of days, you could see this jump back up to 140, 150, 160, just because I feel like it was a little overblown. So again, this is a very, very high growth stock. Still very early. It's only 700 million market cap. It's kind of interesting to see these companies start to blossom, and maybe try to catch them before they really explode. Could be a multi-billion-dollar market cap company easily over the next couple months, years. But it's a more longer-term pick. I think they're definitely trending in the right direction. And if you're interested in maybe getting a little more exposure to the healthcare sector without getting into, the United Healthcare and Eli Lilly, then this is definitely something. So, let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching.